What if the moment you feel closest to giving up is not the end of your journey, but the beginning of a deeper way of seeing? There are seasons in life when you do everything you know how to do, yet nothing appears to change. You pray, you wait, you try to remain hopeful. You tell yourself that tomorrow may bring the answer, the opening, the healing, or the sign you have been asking for. But tomorrow comes, and the situation looks almost exactly the same. The relationship has not healed. The opportunity has not appeared. The fear has not disappeared. The path ahead remains uncertain. After a while, waiting becomes more than waiting. It becomes emotional exhaustion. You begin to wonder whether life has forgotten you. You look at other people and see movement, progress, connection, and certainty, while your own life seems to be standing still. You may continue smiling, working, caring for others, and doing what is expected of you, while privately carrying a question you are afraid to speak aloud. What if nothing changes? That question can become a heavy burden. It can convince you that your hopes were foolish, that your prayers were unheard, or that the loving intelligence of the universe has somehow withdrawn from your life. But before you accept that conclusion, allow yourself to consider another possibility. What if this season is not empty? What if something is being formed within you that cannot yet be measured by visible circumstances? What if the miracle you have been waiting for has already begun, not as a dramatic change in the outer world, but as a quiet transformation in the way you are learning to meet life? The human mind usually defines a miracle according to form. It imagines the phone call, the reconciliation, the medical result, the financial opening, the return of a loved one, or the arrival of a clear direction. The mind says, when this happens, then I will be peaceful. When I receive what I want, then I will trust. When the uncertainty ends, then I will feel safe. Yet peace that depends entirely upon circumstances is fragile. If your peace can exist only when life follows your plan, then every unexpected change has the power to take that peace away. The deeper spiritual journey invites you to discover another kind of peace. It is not a peace created by controlling the world. It is a peace remembered when you stop asking the world to become different before you allow yourself to return to who you truly are. This does not mean denying your pain. It does not mean pretending that loss does not hurt or forcing yourself to feel positive when your heart is tired. Spiritual awareness is not emotional avoidance. It is the willingness to feel what is present without allowing that feeling to become the final definition of your life. There is an awareness within you that has witnessed every disappointment you have survived. It was present during every uncertain night, every rejection, every goodbye, and every moment when you believed you could not continue. That awareness was not destroyed by what happened. Your thoughts may have changed. Your circumstances may have changed. Your body may have carried stress, sorrow, and exhaustion. Yet something within you remained present through it all. It is like the open sky behind a passing storm. The clouds may become dark, thunder may fill the air, rain may cover everything you can see, but the sky itself is never damaged by the storm moving through it. Your deepest self is like that sky. You experience fear, but you are not fear. You experience uncertainty, but you are not uncertainty. You hear the voice that says you are lost, but the one who hears that voice is already greater than the thought. Beneath your changing experiences, there is a quiet presence. You may call it spirit, God, awareness, the source, or the deepest truth of who you are. The name is less important than the recognition that this presence has never abandoned you. You do not have to travel somewhere distant to find it. You do not have to earn it through more suffering. You do not have to become perfect before you are worthy of it. You need only become still enough to notice what has always been here. Imagine a seed resting beneath the earth. From the surface, there appears to be no movement. There are no leaves, no flowers, and no visible proof of growth. Someone who does not understand the nature of life might assume that the seed has failed. But beneath the soil, something essential is happening. The shell is opening. Roots are reaching into the darkness. Life is preparing itself before it becomes visible. There are seasons when your life is growing in the same hidden way. You may be learning to release a relationship that required you to abandon yourself. You may be discovering that your worth does not depend upon another person's approval. You may be recognizing how much of your life has been guided by fear, comparison, obligation, or the need to be understood. These realizations may not feel miraculous at first. They can feel uncomfortable. They may leave you lonely, confused, or uncertain about who you are becoming. But inner growth often begins with the collapse of an identity that was never truly yours. The miracle may not be that every difficulty immediately disappears. The miracle may be that difficulty no longer tells you who you are. It may be that you learn to forgive without returning to what harmed you. It may be that you stop chasing people who repeatedly withhold their love. It may be that you release the need to control every outcome and begin listening to the quiet intelligence within you. There is a profound difference between giving up on one particular outcome and giving up on yourself. Surrender does not mean abandoning your life. It means releasing the belief that life must take only one form in order to be meaningful. You may have asked for one door to open, while another is quietly being prepared. You may have believed that peace depended upon one person staying, one plan succeeding, or one situation unfolding exactly as expected. But the frightened mind can see only what it already knows. The source is not limited by the imagination of fear. You do not need to understand the entire path today. You do not need to solve your future before you go to sleep tonight. You do not need to know how every conflict will end or how every unanswered question will be resolved. Uncertainty is not proof that you have been abandoned. The river does not know every turn before it begins to flow. It encounters stones, narrow passages, fallen branches, and open valleys as they appear. It does not require a complete map before continuing toward the ocean. It moves because movement is part of its nature. Trust can become part of your nature again. Not blind trust in a particular result, but trust in your capacity to meet life without abandoning yourself. Trust that even when you cannot see what is forming, you can remain connected to the presence within you. The part of your mind that tries to control everything is not your enemy. It is a frightened part of you that learned to believe control could prevent pain. It searches for certainty. It replays conversations. It prepares for disappointment before anything has happened. It watches the future as though constant thinking could protect you from change. You may recognize this pattern while waiting for an answer. Every hour of silence begins to feel like rejection. A delayed message becomes proof that someone no longer cares. An uncertain situation becomes a prediction of failure. The ego rarely asks, what is true in this moment? It asks, what must I control so that I will not be hurt? Yet the more tightly you try to control life, the less alive you feel. Your body becomes tense, your breathing becomes shallow. Your attention leaves the present and enters an imagined future filled with dangers that may never arrive. The original difficulty may be real, but the mind surrounds it with interpretation, resistance, and fear. The story becomes heavier than the event itself. Imagine walking through a forest at dusk. The path ahead is difficult to see, and every shadow begins to look threatening. A branch becomes an obstacle. A distant sound becomes a warning. Darkness has not harmed you, but imagination fills the unknown with danger. This is what the ego often does when it cannot see the next chapter of your life. It fills the empty space with old fears, abandonment, failure, humiliation, loneliness, or loss. Then it asks you to respond emotionally to events that have not occurred. Awareness offers another way. Awareness does not demand that you eliminate every fearful thought. It asks you to notice the thought without surrendering your identity to it. You can hear the mind say, nothing will ever change, and recognize that this is fear speaking, not prophecy. You can hear the thought, I am falling behind, and remember that comparison is not truth. The moment you become aware of a thought, a small space opens between you and the thought. Within that space, freedom begins. You can say inwardly, I notice that I am afraid. I notice that I want certainty. I notice that I am trying to force an answer. There is no need to shame yourself. There is no need to fight the mind. You are simply bringing light to what was previously operating in darkness. A room does not defeat darkness through conflict. It allows light to enter. In the same way, you do not free yourself from fear by creating another war inside your mind. You free yourself by becoming present enough to see fear clearly. Fear may still visit, but it no longer has to lead. One of the most painful forms of fear appears through attachment. Attachment can easily disguise itself as love. You may believe that loving someone means needing them to stay, respond, understand you, or become the person you hoped they would be. Beneath that need, however, there may be a deeper fear. The fear of being alone, the fear of not being chosen, or the fear that another person's departure will prove you are unworthy of love. But real love never requires you to abandon yourself. When your worth depends upon another person's behavior, every change becomes a threat. A delayed response can disturb your entire day. A disagreement can feel like the end of connection. You begin hiding your truth, accepting what hurts you, or making yourself smaller because the ego insists that losing the relationship would be worse than losing your inner peace. Sometimes the relationship is not failing to give you what you need. Sometimes it is revealing where you have forgotten your own wholeness. This does not mean withdrawing from love. It means remembering that the love you seek from others is also part of your own spiritual nature. When you reconnect with the source within, you can love more freely because you are no longer asking another person to carry responsibility for your identity. You can care without controlling. You can appreciate someone without possessing them. You can grieve an ending without turning that ending into evidence that you are incomplete. Pain may move through you, but it does not have to become your permanent home. The same principle applies to comparison. The ego looks at the visible life of another person and compares it with your invisible struggle. You see their relationship, confidence, direction, or success, but you do not see their private fears, their lessons, or the path their soul is walking. Then the mind concludes that you are behind. But life is not one race toward a single destination. A rose does not feel unsuccessful because it does not resemble an oak tree. The ocean does not envy the mountain because it cannot rise into the sky. Every expression of life follows its own nature. You also have your own seasons. There are seasons of visible flowering and seasons of hidden rooting. There are times of companionship and times when solitude becomes your teacher. There are moments when doors open quickly and moments when you are invited to wait, listen, and become more deeply acquainted with yourself. The ego fears slow seasons because it measures life through appearances. Your true self understands that the deepest growth is often invisible. You are not necessarily behind. You may be learning patience before receiving greater responsibility. You may be developing discernment before entering a new relationship. You may be discovering self-respect before stepping into a life that requires you to honor your own truth. The quiet wisdom within you rarely speaks with the urgency of fear. Fear shouts, "Decide now or you will lose everything." Wisdom says, "Become still enough to know what is true." Fear says, "Make them understand you." Wisdom says, "Understand yourself." Fear says, "You must know how this will end." Wisdom says, "Meet this moment with love." Loudness is not the same as truth. The ego repeats its message because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity can feel convincing. A belief you have carried for years may appear to be part of your identity, even when it is only an old wound asking to be healed. You may have learned that your value depends upon being useful. You take care of everyone while ignoring your exhaustion. You say yes when your entire being is asking you to say no. You try to keep peace in the outer world by sacrificing peace within yourself. The ego may call this kindness, loyalty, or responsibility. But love does not require self-abandonment. There is giving that comes from fear and giving that comes from fullness. Fearful giving says, "I must do this so that I will be accepted." Loving giving says, "I choose to offer this freely without losing myself." When you begin to recognize the difference, some relationships may change. People who were comfortable with your lack of boundaries may resist the version of you who no longer says yes to everything. They may call your boundaries rejection. They may call your honesty selfishness. They may misunderstand your need for peace. You do not have to become unkind, but you also do not have to betray yourself in order to maintain another person's comfort. A tree offers shade, fruit, and shelter, but it does not tear out its roots to prove its generosity. You also need roots. Stillness can be a root. Honest boundaries can be roots. Time alone, self-respect, prayer, reflection, and the courage to tell the truth can all keep you connected to what sustains you. The miracle you are waiting for may require you to become less dependent upon being understood. You can spend enormous energy explaining yourself to people who are committed to seeing you through the lens of their own wounds. The ego wants to correct every misunderstanding because it believes peace will come when everyone sees you accurately. But freedom may begin when you allow others to hold an incomplete picture of you. You do not need to enter every argument. You do not need to defend every choice. You do not need to prove the purity of your intentions to someone who has already decided what they want to believe. Sometimes peace arrives when you stop attending every conflict to which the ego invites you. This is not avoidance. It is discernment. Your energy is sacred. Not every demand deserves access to it. Control, comparison, overthinking, and people-pleasing often arise from the same fundamental belief, the belief that you are separate from the love and intelligence of life. If you believe you are alone in an unpredictable universe, control will seem necessary. If you believe your worth is separate from the source, comparison will seem meaningful. If you believe love exists only in the approval of others, people-pleasing will feel like survival. But you are not separate. The same intelligence that moves seasons, guides tides, opens flowers, and holds planets in their paths is not absent from you. You are an expression of that life. The flower does not force itself to bloom. The river does not argue with every bend. Nature participates in an order that the thinking mind cannot always understand. You also belong to that order. This does not mean every event will be pleasant or every desire will be fulfilled exactly as imagined. It means you can meet uncertainty without interpreting it as a personal attack. You can participate in life without trying to dominate it. You can act without making your peace dependent upon the result. You can speak your truth and release the need to control how it is received. This is the difference between intention and demand. Intention says, I choose to live from love, truth, compassion, and peace. Demand says, life must give me this particular outcome before I will allow myself to be peaceful. You can hold a clear intention while remaining open to a form you did not expect. You can desire healing without deciding exactly how healing must look. You can hope for reconciliation while accepting that peace may arrive through release. You can ask for guidance without insisting that the answer confirm what you already want to believe. The ego calls surrender defeat because it believes power means controlling the outcome. Spirit recognizes surrender as the willingness to stop fighting what is already here. Surrender is not passivity. It does not mean refusing to act or pretending that your choices do not matter. It means acting from a quieter place. You can make the call, apply for the opportunity, tell the truth, seek help, set the boundary, or take the next necessary step. Then you release your demand that the universe obey your timeline. You have power over the intention behind your actions. You do not have complete power over the form life takes. When you accept this, energy that was trapped in fear begins to return. Your mind becomes clearer, your body softens, you become more available to guidance that cannot be heard while you are forcing an answer. The next step may not be dramatic. It may be a conversation you have been avoiding. It may be a period of rest. It may be walking away from what repeatedly harms you. It may be forgiving yourself for not knowing sooner what you understand now. You do not need the entire map in order to take one peaceful step. Nothing outside may have changed yet, but you are no longer meeting life as the same person. This is why the inner shift matters. The miracle is not only approaching from somewhere in the future, it is unfolding through the awareness awakening within you now. You are discovering that fear is a visitor, not your identity. Uncertainty is a season, not your permanent home. The ego is a voice within consciousness, but it is not the whole of who you are. Beneath the noise, something peaceful remains. Returning to that peace often requires a willingness to release what no longer belongs to you. You may have carried old disappointments for so long that they have become part of the story you tell about yourself. A betrayal taught you to expect abandonment. A failure convinced you that you were incapable. A painful relationship left you questioning your worth. The event ended, but the mind continued living inside it. Forgiveness is one way you loosen your attachment to that story. Forgiveness does not deny what happened. It does not excuse harmful behavior or require you to return to a situation that damaged you. It allows you to stop giving the past authority over the present. You may be waiting for someone to apologize before you permit yourself to heal. You believe peace will come when they finally understand what they did. But this places your freedom in the hands of someone who may never see the experience as you do. Forgiveness returns your freedom to you. It says what happened mattered, but it will not determine the quality of every day that remains. Forgiveness is rarely one dramatic moment. It may be a quiet decision you make again and again. When the memory returns, you acknowledge the pain without feeding resentment. You honor the lesson without continuing the punishment. Sometimes the person you most need to forgive is yourself. You look back and wish you had seen the signs sooner. You regret how long you stayed, how much you accepted, or how often you ignored your intuition. But you are judging the person you were with, wisdom that only became available through the experience. The earlier version of you was trying to find love, safety, and belonging. You may have confused being needed with being valued. You remain silent because conflict frightened you. You held on because letting go seemed more painful than staying. You do not heal by shaming that version of yourself. You heal by meeting yourself with compassion. Imagine speaking inwardly to the person you once were as you would speak to a frightened child. You were doing the best you could with what you understood. You do not have to carry this alone anymore. I am here now. That tenderness is not weakness. It is love replacing judgment. Where love enters, the past begins to soften. There comes a moment when you realize that the new life you are asking for cannot fully enter while you are gripping the old one. You may be asking for peace while holding tightly to resentment. You may be asking for a new beginning while repeatedly rehearsing the old ending. You may be asking for guidance while insisting that life follow the path your ego has already chosen. Surrender creates space. It is like trying to hold water in a closed fist. The tighter you grip, the less you can receive. When the hand opens, nothing essential is lost. Only the tension is released. You may have believed the miracle would be the return of a relationship, but the miracle may be the return of your self-respect. You may have believed the miracle would be a clear answer, but the miracle may be discovering that you can remain grounded while the answer is still forming. You may have believed the miracle would be the end of loneliness, but the miracle may be learning that solitude can become a sacred meeting with yourself. The form may be different from what the ego expected, yet the essence can still be love. Your true self is not the frightened voice that says you are incomplete. It is the awareness hearing that voice. Your true self is not the wound. It is the loving presence capable of holding the wound. Your true self is not the role you perform for others. It is what remains when the performance ends. You may encounter this self in quiet moments. Early in the morning, before the demands of the day begin, there may be a few seconds when you are not thinking about who you should be or what you must accomplish. You simply hear your breath. You notice the light entering the room. You feel life moving through you without effort. For that brief moment, nothing is missing. The mind may quickly return and begin naming problems, but the stillness was real. It revealed something essential. Peace is not always something you create. Often, it is what remains when you stop disturbing yourself with every thought. This is why stillness becomes a doorway back to the source. You do not need to empty your mind perfectly. You do not need a special room or a dramatic spiritual experience. You can pause wherever you are. Notice the breath entering and leaving. Allow thoughts to move across your awareness without following each one. Feel the chair beneath you or the ground under your feet. Recognize that in this moment, you are here. The source is not waiting somewhere in the distance. Life is moving through you now. From stillness, trust becomes more natural. Trust does not mean assuming that life will always give you what you want. It means knowing that you can meet what comes without abandoning yourself. It means allowing the possibility that an intelligence larger than your immediate understanding may be working through your life. A river may encounter a fallen tree and appear to be blocked, yet the water does not spend its existence arguing with the obstacle. It moves around it, beneath it, or gradually changes the landscape. The obstacle becomes part of the river's path. Your difficulties can also become part of the path, not because suffering is required, but because awareness can transform what suffering teaches. A loss may deepen compassion. A period of uncertainty may teach you to live one day at a time. A broken relationship may lead you back to honesty, boundaries, and self-love. A delay may reveal that the life you were forcing was not the life your spirit was asking you to live. You do not have to be grateful for pain itself. But one day, you may feel grateful for what awakened through it. This is the movement from resistance toward alignment. Alignment does not mean arranging a perfect life. It means bringing your thoughts, choices, and actions closer to love. You can ask yourself, am I responding from fear or from the deeper peace within me? Sometimes love asks you to stay and listen. Sometimes it asks you to leave. Sometimes forgiveness allows a relationship to continue with greater understanding. Sometimes forgiveness allows you to release the relationship without hatred. Love is not always soft in appearance, but it is rooted in truth. You begin living from that truth in ordinary moments. When the mind predicts the worst, return to what is present. When someone misunderstands you, resist the urge to abandon yourself in order to be accepted. When regret appears, offer compassion to who you once were. When uncertainty returns, ask only for the next peaceful step. A spiritual life is not built only through extraordinary experiences. It is formed through the choices you make in quiet moments when no one is watching. The miracle is forming each time you choose awareness instead of reaction. It is forming each time you choose forgiveness instead of resentment. It is forming each time you choose trust instead of demanding certainty. You will still have difficult days. Returning to your true self does not mean never feeling afraid again. It means fear no longer becomes your home. You feel it. You listen to what it may be revealing. Then you remember that something deeper is present. You are not becoming worthy of peace. You are remembering that peace belongs to your nature. You are not trying to manufacture love. You are releasing the walls that prevented you from feeling the love already within you. This is why you are being asked not to give up. Not because you must force yourself to feel hopeful every moment. Not because you must continue chasing a dream that no longer honors your truth. And not because you are required to remain in situations that diminish your spirit. Do not give up on yourself. You are allowed to release an old dream, an old relationship, an old timeline, or an old idea of how life was supposed to look. But you do not have to give up on the loving presence within you. The seed beneath the earth does not interpret darkness as rejection. It uses the darkness to form roots. You may be forming roots now. The answer may still be unseen. The path may still be unfolding. Yet every time you forgive, surrender, and return to the quiet presence within, you become able to receive life in a new way. When you stop demanding that the miracle arrive in only one form, you begin noticing how it may already be approaching from many directions. It may arrive through a new opportunity. It may arrive through the courage to walk away. It may arrive through healing, reconciliation, or renewed purpose. It may also arrive as a quiet freedom that no outer circumstance can give or take away. As you move through the days ahead, remember that living this truth does not require perfection. Stillness can meet you anywhere. It may come while you sit in your car before entering your home. It may appear in the breath you take before replying to a difficult message. It may be present while sunlight moves across a wall or rain touches a window. In these ordinary moments, return to yourself. At the beginning of the day, you might ask, what would it feel like to meet this day without fighting it? You are not promising that everything will be easy. You are choosing not to enter the day already at war with whatever may happen. Take one slow breath before reaching for the world. Notice that you are alive. Notice that awareness is present. Notice that the source is not somewhere outside you, waiting for you to become worthy. Life is moving through you now. Gratitude can help you recognize this. Gratitude does not deny pain. It reminds you that pain is not the entire picture. Even during a difficult season, something may remain. A person who cares. A place where you can rest. A lesson becoming clearer. Or the strength that carried you through another day. When you acknowledge what remains, you are not pretending your problems have disappeared. You are reminding the mind that life is greater than the story of what is missing. Observe your thoughts gently. When the mind says, I cannot handle this, notice the thought and return to your breath. When it says nothing is changing, remember that some forms of growth remain hidden for a time. Awareness may not immediately remove the thought. It removes the thought's authority. When an old memory returns, do not judge yourself for not being completely healed. See it as another opportunity to choose freedom. You can say inwardly, I release the need to carry this in the same way. You may not feel immediate relief, but every sincere release loosens something within you. You can forgive others without inviting them back into your life. You can forgive yourself without pretending every choice was wise. Forgiveness simply allows the heart to stop living under the rule of yesterday. When uncertainty returns, practice trust. Trust does not require knowledge of what is coming. It asks you to remain present for the step beneath your feet. A tree does not try to hold every season at once. It releases its leaves when their purpose is complete. It remains rooted through winter. Then, without force, new life appears. You are also allowed to have seasons. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to outgrow old roles. You are allowed to release what no longer reflects the truth of who you are becoming. You are allowed to move slowly when your heart needs time. Your miracle may arrive as an outer change. A door may open, a relationship may heal, a clear direction may appear. But when it does, you may recognize that the deepest miracle began much earlier. It began when you stopped believing every fearful thought. It began when you chose peace without waiting for permission from your circumstances. It began when you forgave yourself, released your demand for one particular outcome, and trusted that your life could unfold in ways beyond what the ego had planned. You do not have to force hope. Remain open. Open to guidance, open to healing, open to the possibility that what appears unfinished is still being shaped. The ocean does not become anxious when a wave returns to its depths. It knows that rising, falling, movement, and stillness all belong to its nature. You are not merely the wave struggling today. You are also the deeper awareness beneath every changing experience. Nothing essential has been taken from you. The peace you seek is not far away. The love you need is not absent. The wisdom you have been asking for may already be speaking through the quiet feeling that tells you to breathe, release, and continue. So do not give up on yourself. Do not give up on the presence within you. Release the old dream if it no longer belongs to you. Release the old timeline. Release the need to know exactly how everything will unfold. But do not release your trust in love. Let the next chapter arrive in its own form. Let yourself be surprised by peace. Remember that you are not becoming someone entirely new. You are returning to the truth that has always lived within you. You are whole beneath the fear. You are loved beneath the uncertainty. You remain connected to the source even in moments when you cannot feel that connection. Your miracle may be moving toward you. But here, in the silence of this moment, recognize that something miraculous has already begun within you. You are seeing differently. You are loosening your grip. You are returning to peace. And from that place, life can begin again. Share in the comments what you are learning to release and what you are choosing to trust. Subscribe for more quiet spiritual journeys designed to help you return to the peace, love, and wisdom that have always been living within you.